Hi, this is Mike Baio with Banger Inc. In today's subject, we're going to talk about optimizing subcontract management in Sage Intacct. What we're going to do is focus specifically on what you can do with your subcontracts in the system in Construction Edition with Sage Intacct. And this is without any third-party add-ons like Procore and things like that. And also, this does not include any newer solutions that are out there now, like the Sage Construction Management product, which is now available where you can do full online correspondence and cloud-based subcontract management. That is going to be talked about in other sessions on this live stream. For this session, we're going to talk specifically about how to function with and track your subcontracts directly within Sage Intacct out of the box with the Construction Edition. So one of the things you can do to help you with that process is inside Intacct, you have the ability to set up what's called smart rules, smart events in the system. And these can help you do various tasks. But one thing they can do is let me duplicate my screen here for a second. And let me get to my top level, which is where all my settings are. What you can do with smart rules and smart events is you can actually dictate what fields you want to populate. For example, when you're setting up a subcontract vendor, there's certain things that you want to make sure you're tracking on that vendor. So when it goes time to approve payments, that they have all the proper documentation and all of their insurance certificates, and everything that you need from them to process payment. And what you can do is you can use these smart rules, for example, to check that. So when somebody's setting up a new subcontract, for example, you want to make sure you have a insurance expiration date, or you want to make sure you have an email address, or a checkbox that you've received their W-9, or just different things in the system. You could establish these smart rules that'll help send reminders out. So basically, if I'm a user and I'm in there entering that information, and I don't enter a certain field that's required, I can either have a warning or an error message to remind me where to do that. And we'll take a look at some. I believe I do have one set up. We'll take a look at that now. Let's go take a look. And I'm going to go to include inactive. And let's see if I have any examples. Okay, so I do have one here. I set up a vendor email. I believe I also had an insurance one, but we can set that up. So this one right here is vendor email. And you could combine these as well in what's called triggers. But basically, it's a wizard. And I could say on the vendor record, I basically want a warning here, not an error message. I want to be able to continue that says, give me a warning when the vendor email address on the primary contact record is not equal to, is blank, is equal to 0. Okay. We'll take a look at another one here. Now, what can happen also is then what I really like is you can define the error message. So when the user gets the error message, it's popping up and it's saying what you want it to say. And this one says, please enter a vendor email address. Thank you. Very simple, but it's huge because when you go to send out that subcontract document, if you don't have the email address on the vendor, you're not going to be able to do that. So we can be proactive in establishing your rules as smart rules in the system. And then it's just a wizard setting these up. And there's a cheat sheet for formulas and things like that. So you can also, and we'll come back into here from time to time. You can also do, and this is where I have it set up. You can also do what's called a smart event. Smart event's going to do something different. Smart event's going to send out an email after the fact. So for example, here's one we have set up, vendor expired insurances. So if we take a look at this one, it's going to be anytime an accounts payable of a subcontract bill is put in the system for payment, it's going to check and it's going to send an email out that says, hey, in the vendor AP insurance expiration date on the vendor record is less than or equal to today, or it's blank, send an email. And in this scenario, it's going to send this email. Who is it going to send it to? and a little reminder that says, hey, someone put an AP bill in, but that vendor has expired insurance. So you can do that type of stuff. And really the sky's the limit on these. I'm not going to spend too much time in here, but out of the box within construction payroll, no fancy other subcontract management solutions, you can kind of make your own little alert and, error check for subcontracts. Okay. The other thing you can do, and this is very helpful, is you can create your own custom fields. So you'll notice if we go into it, I'll jump over to here. If we go into Timberline Construction and I go into my vendor setup screen, you can have vendors set up in the system. So if I take a look at Jackson Plumbing, for example, what you can do is you can add your own fields. So again, you got to have security to do so. But for example, this tab right here, compliance info, I added this. And I put in a custom field for an insurance expiration date. And it's very simple to do. If I go back into platform services, this is why I left this one open here. You'll see a location called custom fields. And in here, there's a lot of custom fields in here. Some get loaded already in the system depending on the modules you have, but you can create your own. So you'll notice on page 2, let's go back to page 1 here. Here it is, insurance expiration date. So I created a custom field. And let's create a new one real quick. We'll create a simple one here. We'll click add, and it's a wizard. What record or object do you want to add this to? Well, it's the vendor. I want to add it right to the vendor setup screen. And what do I want it to be? And you have lots of options. You can have a drop-down list, text field, password, store a password here. I'm just going to make it a checkbox. We're going to keep this simple for today. And we're going to say received all documentation. Put a question mark. And what's the default value? We want it to be unchecked. And we'll let it pre-fill to the field ID. And we'll hit next. And now, do we want to make this field required? Well, no, because we only want to check it when we get the documentation, but you can make it required, inactive. Now, where do you want it to appear? What this is asking is in my vendor setup screen, if I go back into my vendor, where do I want that field? Where do I want it? What tab and what area in here? And if you want, you can create a new tab. So I'm going to put it over in the compliance info tab. So I'm going to come back here, and what you need to do is you need to know exactly what this is called, compliance info. You can even copy and paste it here if you want. I'll just put it here. Or, I'm sorry. Actually, this is only for a new tab. If you already have it set up, you can grab it off your drop-down list. My bad. Compliance info. Okay. And within the compliance info, you can make a section in there, but we're not going to do that. And then you just hit done. And that's going to save the field in the system. So now if I go back to my vendor setup screen, and what I want to do is, in this scenario, I'm going to go over to my purchasing vendors. You can get to it from purchasing or accounts payable. I'll go into vendors, and let's go back into Jackson Plumbing. I'll click edit. And you'll notice over on compliance info, I have a new box here, received all documentation, and I have an expired insurance date. So let's fill that in as 6/4, and we'll say, yep, we received all documentation. So you could run smart rules and before you pay that vendor, if that's checked. So just simple things that you can set up here, and you could report on all of these. Okay. So that's just a little tidbit on some of the customization you guys can do yourselves to help you track your subcontracts in the system however you see fit. And you can add and delete and make these inactive as you go and as you get more familiar with the system and refinement. So what we're going to do now is let's go in and let's enter a subcontract. So let's go in and enter a subcontract. We'll do it at the Timberline General Construction Company. And you're going to do that over in the purchasing module, and you'll see these transaction definitions. You will not see all of these. I have a demo data here, and there's a lot of transaction definitions. You're going to be able to turn on and off only the ones that you guys want to use and want to cease. But you'll see here we have subcontracts. We do have purchase orders as well. So, this again is focused on subcontracts, but it's the same idea on the purchase orders. And then on subcontracts, we also have a place to do subcontract change orders here. And then we also have subcontract invoices, accounts payable invoices, which we'll get into. So let's just go in and enter a subcontract. And from this screen now, let me take a step back here. What you can do in the system is you'll notice here, I could click on subcontract, which is going to show me an overall list of my subcontracts. I can also click the plus button, which is going to go right in and create a new subcontract. So it takes me right into the screen. Okay. So a couple things you can do is if you do want to get back to your subcontract list, you can hit this little go to list button here. And that's okay. We don't want to save anything yet. And you can see a list of all your subcontracts. And one of the references you'll be able to do is, you can sort on these column headings. So one of the things we're going to do here is let's just see all the subcontracts for 22-022. So I'll key that in there. And now I can quickly see, here's all my subcontracts for that project so far. You can make your own views. So you can have, close subcontracts, open, whatever you want to create your criteria and your views in your system, you can do that. So I can see here's a list of subs I've set up so far. We didn't do the, let's do that one sub that we were working on earlier. I believe that was Jackson Plumbing, even though we already have a plumbing in here, but it's just play data. So we'll come in and now right from here, I can click add as well. But one of the things you can also do is, let's say you worked on a similar project and with Jackson Plumbing. So let's go see all of Jackson Plumbing subcontracts. So you could just type in Jackson and it'll show you all the subcontract agreements for Jackson with the name Jackson in it. And here's the 3. So let's say we have a similar one to this subcontract. Let's go take a look at it here and see if it's got some information filled in for us. So it's got some information filled in, but it's very similar to this agreement, meaning all the information is filled in. What you can do is from this agreement, you can hit convert or copy to, and you can copy it to another subcontract. And what that does now is that basically copies it over into a new subcontract, and now you can make your changes. So this is huge if you have a lot of subcontract agreements that are similar. You're doing the same cost codes, just the jobs changing, maybe you have the same scopes, things like that. You can use this to pre-fill all this information in and then come into here and then pick your project. So this is the project that's for, and then it's going to be not this project, it's going to be, this project here, and fill all that information to help you guys with some setup. We're going to just do one from scratch though. So we'll cancel out of here. We'll hit add. And we'll go from there. So we'll come into here and we'll say Jackson. I can best fit everything. So I can just hit Jackson Plumbing. What project is it for? I know it's San Antonio. Oops. So I didn't hit my caps here. San Antonio project. Okay, and then it fills all the information in: pay to, return to, deliver to. So if this is a purchase order, it'd be delivering to, maybe the job site. You can switch that here, but for subcontract, we're not too concerned with that. You have terms that pre-fill in. This is all from the vendor's setup screen. You can override that at the subcontract level. You can have a default retainage percentage here. So let's say we're going to withhold 10%. And we can also do attachments. So if you have a more formal multi-page subcontract document or quote or anything that you've received from this subcontractor, you can attach and add files. Now you could drag and drop them in, or you can browse. So if I have my Explorer open, I can drag it, or I could just grab it and browse and pull it in here. And you'd want to grab a PDF file most likely, or something that's attached online. See if I have anything here. I'm just gonna grab something fake, and let's grab Well, doesn't matter. Let's just grab this one here. Okay, so we attach that in there, save it. Now there's an attachment on there, and you can view it by clicking the paperclip at any time, and it'll show you the in this case, which would be the agreement. Okay, so you could do that. Now, you could take this as far as you want, as far as document goes. You could actually generate a pretty sophisticated document out of here. All the documents in the system are created with what's called printed document templates, and you can create your own. And they're all through Word, and they're all connecting into Intacct. And there's some samples of the subcontract form. I usually just go to here and type in purchasing, and it'll show me the form. So here's a subcontract form, and it's just a template. So you can download that template, and then you can open it up in Word, and we can copy and paste. We can put in your terminology, your terms and conditions. We could have and you can have the full-blown subcontract document form in here, and it also integrates to Intacct, so you can actually pull merge fields in. And we have specific classes in refinement that'll help you do this, and we can also help you with our help desk tickets as well. So you can build your actual document form. Okay. So when you're keying this in here, any of these fields that you see can be on the form. So you have shipping dates, you have scope fields, schedules. You know, it depends how detailed and complex you want your information and track your information. But now, smart rules, smart events, triggers, they all can be based on any of these fields. You know, and you can use on reports and dashboards, so it really becomes a powerful tool. And you can set it up however you want to set it up. You have internal references, external references, and don't forget, we can create custom fields. So you can put custom fields anywhere on this form as well. Okay. So one of the things you can do down the detail screen, the entry screen, is you can have defaults pre-fill in. So if you're doing this is a detailed subcontract and there's a bunch of lines, you don't have to fill out each of these lines every time. You can click show defaults, and you can say, what are the defaults for this project? It's the warehouse. It's going to be this cost code, which is plumbing. I don't know if I have yep, I do. Plumbing, and it's going to be subcontract. Okay, and then what department is it? So you can have all this stuff fill in the detail. So when you come down to here, I could just say apply defaults, and you'll notice now it pre-fills that information in. Now, if it's one line, it's not worth going in and saying default, but this might pertain more to a purchase order. But if you have a lot of lines, you can have that pre-fill in, and then you don't have to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to get these out because I'm just going to key it in manually. Delete that. Okay, but you can just key it in manually. We'll say it's for the San Antonio. It's for plumbing. So now I don't have to use my list. I can just type in PLU and it'll find the plumbing cost code. S for sub, it'll find the sub. Pre-fills in what's called the item. And then in this case, because it's subcontract, you're not going to put it in quantity. It's probably going to default as price. So as part of the setup, you can just say price. And then you'll notice you can just say, what's the subcontract agreement for? We'll say 45,000, and you'll notice it's pre-filling in the retainage percentage because we already filled that in. And if they were working on multiple cost codes for you, you can keep going here. But at that point, one thing you can do is you can post a draft. Maybe you're not ready to have it available in the system on report. You're still filling it out. You're still getting some information. You can post it as a draft at any time. But in this case, we're going to say post, which really just means save it. And it's in the system pending now as a live subcontract document. You'll see it right here. Okay. So what's nice about the construction edition is, and this came out one of the latest releases, is they have some nice reporting tools built right in the project. So if we go over to projects and we take a look at the projects module, you will notice if I pull up that San Antonio project, either edit or view, we have a tab here called Purchasing Commitment. So it's going to show you all your POs and all your subcontracts for that project. So it's a really nice area for the project managers to come in and get an overall snapshot of their projects as far as subcontracts go and where that subcontract is in the process. You'll notice here's the one we just added. It's a pending stage, which means it hasn't been billed yet. We have a transaction date. We have an original amount and a revised amount. We have no changes yet. And then you can see on some of the other ones here, we can show the whole progress, what's been invoiced, what's been retained, what's been paid. Okay, so we're going to track that progress. And what's really nice is it's interactive. If you want to get into the subcontract, I can click at it right from here. And now I'm right back in the entry screen that we were in earlier. And if I need to make edits, I can do that by clicking edit here. One of the other things you can do is print or email. So this is where you would print out or email out your subcontract document. I'll just say print so that we can see a copy of it. And again, this isn't really a typical one. You'd have more, terms and conditions in there, scope of work, but we can make it whatever you want it to be. So you can see here how it's filling in, and you can send that out. Now you can do that individually, one at a time. You can also have that email out automatically in purchasing under print or email transactions. You'll notice here you can select what type of transaction. So we can say add subcontracts, not purchase orders, and what document template is it. And we can hit click view. And it's going to show me, it would show me all my subcontract documents that are ready to be sent out. And I must have said something. Let's do April to today. Previously sent, posted only subcontracts. Okay, let's see if we get something here. Yep, we got 2. So now you can mass send out all your documents at the same time if they're ready to go. And you can either click print here, or you can say email them all, boom, and then you can send out all your documents. Okay, so we'll close that up. Okay, so you can send out those documents as well. So one of the things we can do directly from inside the subcontract document is we can convert it over to an accounts payable bill in the system. So if I go back into my purchasing subcontracts here, let's say you have a bill in the system and that bill came from Jackson Plumbing. I could just type in the beginning of the vendor name and I could see all the subcontract documents for Jackson Plumbing. One of the things I didn't do, if you notice here, and we could add the project field on here as well, but this one by default uses the reference number here. So what I usually recommend is you come into here, back into the subcontract document, and there's a reference field here. So what you could do is put in the job number right there as well. And then it's just an easy way to have it on the list for you. So now you can see it right here. So if you see the invoices for that project or that subcontract document number, you can come right into here. So one of the things you can do is you can click this convert button. And what convert does, it says, okay, you have a subcontract document. Now what do you want to do? I want to convert it into an AP bill, subcontract invoice. I'm being invoiced from them. Okay, so when I convert it, it comes over to a subcontract invoice. It pre-fills all the information in. There's my date, today's date. Maybe the invoice was for, 5/31. You can change that. Fills in all the information, payment terms, due dates. The one thing it's required here, and you'll see an asterisk, it needs the vendor invoice number. So maybe it's APP001 or whatever their application number is. You can fill that in. And you'll notice here, it pulled in all the information, the detail, the amount of the subcontract, and the amount of retained. So let's say they're only invoicing you for $20,000. You can come into here and you could type in 20,000. Now, there is a setting in the system. Some people prefer this. Some people prefer to not have it fill the amount in here, to leave it 0, and then they want to type in what they're being billed for. That's a simple checkbox in the configuration. in the purchasing module. So if you wanted to have this start as a 0 here and you want to just key it in because you don't want to accidentally put in the whole thing and you only want to do half, you can do that. You can choose to do whichever way works best for your company. So we'll just say 20,000. When I do that, it adjusts the retainage accordingly. Okay, so the net due is going to be 18,000 here. So I can fill that in and I can click post. And when I click post in the system, that's now going to send it over to accounts payable as a bill. Now, one thing that I don't have turned on here is approvals. But this is another added process in the system, both in subcontract purchase order creation and in accounts payable. You have the ability to turn on or off approvals at all stages in your system. And if I can find it right here, this is in subcontracts and purchase orders. I can enable the purchase order approval. Okay. And I could turn on approval processes and I could define them in your configurations under manage. And in here, you could set up your approvals and you can have particular policies for certain types of documents. So for example, you can have an approval workflow set up for subcontracts that is different from your approval workflow that you set up for a purchase order. Maybe purchase orders based on amount, subcontracts based on project manager, then amount. You can have all different levels of approval setups in the system. We're not going to dig too far deep into this today, but you can have full-blown approvals turned on at any stage in the process. So you can also have them turned on. So when I hit post there on that subcontract invoice over in accounts payable, that creates a bill. Well, that may have then triggered an approval for the bill because in the configurations for accounts payable, we can configure approvals in here as well. So we have approvals both for bill approval settings. So if I click that and turn that on, I have to click edit. I'm not in edit. So if I edited that, I could turn on a bill approvals and I can also turn on payment approvals. So you can have lots of different tiers and levels depending on what your company requires for your approval methods. Okay. So once I hit post on that subcontract converted invoice, it will show up now over in accounts payable. So if I do go over into my accounts payable bills, I should see that one we just did right here. If you see that for 20,000, subcontract invoice, print, post, there is a document on it. And you'll notice what's nice is that document that we attached at the subcontract creation flows through to the AP bill. So if you want to see the agreement, things like that, the documents that are attached flow all the way to the payable invoice. And then I can edit or view it from here. If I view the accounts payable invoice, now the accounting staff can see, make sure the general ledger accounts are correct. And this view, you can also have the attachment pre-fill automatically on the accounts payable bill. That's what it's doing there, but I can choose to close it too. So maybe you want to scan in the accounts payable invoice, you can have that showing here as well. Okay. But that looks good. Now, one of the nice features in here, especially for collaboration with subcontract management, is you have this correspondence in the system in Sage Intacct out of the box. So maybe someone in accounting has a question on this bill and they want to talk to the project manager about it. I could type in the project manager's name and it'll pre-fill in and say, hey, Brett, question on this bill. Do they have all the documentation ready to go? Can I pay? Okay, so you could crank this out and put a comment right on here and click share. Brett's going to get that message. It's going to show up here in the top right corner. It's called a collaboration center here. Okay, and then once Brett sees that, he can reply to it. What's really nice about this functionality is the correspondence stays with the document. So if you're checking this out 2 months later, you'll always have these notes, these correspondence on this document record to review it. You can also get to it right from the comments. So for example, if I come over to here, this looks like there's a change order question up here. If I click on that, that's going to bring me directly into the project change order that the question came up on. Okay, and that's a really powerful feature, especially if you're asking questions between accounting and the project management staff. So one thing to notice is now that we have the AP bill in the system, if we jump back over to the San Antonio project, you'll see now if we go over to purchasing and commitments that we should see on our line here, we have a partially converted commitment, we have an amount invoiced, and we have retainage held and nothing paid yet. Okay, so as this stuff is happening in the system, it'll track the progress here. You can also see that progress over in reports. We have a bunch of commitment reports. You can put them anywhere you want. I happen to have them in the purchasing area under custom reports. We have a bunch of different commitment reports. Let's take a look at this one here, commitment detail by project. And all of these reports can be dashboards and things like that as well. So if I come in here, I could just filter that one project. We'll let it come up here and the filters will prompt up in the system. And I can select which project do I want to run this on. I just want to run it on San Antonio. Click done. Once I do that now, I can do a couple things up here. I can just view it. I can process and store it. I can add it to a dashboard. I can memorize it. One thing is when you process and store it, you can actually schedule this report to run for you. Maybe you want to send it to the project management team every Friday or every Monday for a recap. You could actually schedule out your reports to be sent directly to them, so they don't even have to be in Intacct. They can run the report right in their email. So we'll click View here. This report's going to process and it's going to pull together all the commitments for this project, just like we saw in that project setup window, but it's going to show in a little bit more detail for us. What's really nice is these reports are all interactive as well, so you can drill down, and we'll do some of that once we see this up here. So you notice like this one, for example, has the project on the left, and then it's sorted by vendor. So there's our Jackson Plumbing vendor, and then it shows each subcontract agreement for that vendor. Now on this project, it looks like we picked some, oh, I'm sorry, this is Adams Electric. I apologize, I was on the wrong tab, but you'll notice Adams Electric, while we're on it, does have two subcontract agreements for this project, and you can see them here. Ours is up here on top. Jackson Plumbing, there's the subcontract agreement. It's one line, and it shows the commitment, the original commitment, $45,000. We don't have any changes on it. And then it shows, and I like this one because it lays out the details. It shows every invoice that's been processed against this commitment. So you see we have the one for $20,000. We haven't paid it yet. Now, if you take a look at some of the ones down below, you'll notice like this bottom one here, we're showing commitment and the change order, and we'll do that next. But you can see the change order, and then here's the total for the commitment. So this is a really nice interactive report, and this can be modified and tweaked as well. But you'll notice here, if I want to get back to the original commitment, I can do that by clicking on this field here, and this will open up the commitment record. Takes a second to open it up, but we're going to let that open, and it'll take me right back into my initial entry screen that I was in initially when I set this up. Okay, so now there's our original entry screen, and now you have a couple different tabs here. In the subcontract document, you can see if there's any change documents on it. You'll notice there's nothing in there. The posting details, so you'll see we have our postings of our GL entry, and then the history. So as things get created, closed, partially, so you'll see the whole history of that subcontract document. Now, if I'm done, I can actually close this, and it will take me right back to the report. And now again, if I want to see the bill, I can click on that AP bill, and it'll bring me right into the accounts payable bill. Now, You can do all this with an employee use and view only mode. You just can't do any data entry. So it's also very functional for users that just need to review the information and not necessarily enter data in it. Okay, so you can get back to that interactive report. So last thing we'll touch on today is the change order process. So now we have a change order on this. So let's go back to the home menu and let's go into applications. Now, what you can do here is under projects, you do have a whole change management system, and we do have some live streams out there on change management workflow. Definitely check that out in one of the other videos. The change management will go into great detail in tracking your change orders from owner's perspective and then automatically reporting on them down to the vendors. But one thing you can do in here is, I do want to touch on is when a change request comes in, you'll notice one of the things you can do is, let's go to pending change orders here. I don't have it on this view, but let's go into this one. When you notice what the fields you can have here is you can add the vendor field on the change request. So basically what you can do is you can track what vendor you're going to use to do the subcontract change order for this cost code and what their quote was. So you can track it here and report on it. And that can help you get your subcontract change order views built and ready in the system. So from there, what we're going to do is we're going to go today and go over to purchasing, and we're going to go to subcontract change order. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can go directly into subcontract change orders, and you can click add, and you can list, what subcontract document it's linked to. But you can also do it, and I usually recommend doing it right from the subcontract. It's just a little easier flow. So here's the one we did here. So if I want to go to editor view, I can do either one. And when I open up my subcontract document, I can go over to here on the right and say more actions. And you'll notice here I have new change. And I can say new change, and it's a subcontract change order. And that'll copy all the information over, all the header information over. It's the first change order for this project. All that stuff pre-fills in. Maybe you have another attachment for the change order document here. You have all the same fields that you had in the original document that can be used on a subcontract change order form. So we could also create the change order form. All right. And if we come down into here, it also says which subcontract document this is linked to. So that pre-fills all in for you. The only thing you really have to do is come down to your line item, and you have a place to put in the change order price. So if I come into here, let's say the change order price is going to be $1,500, and I can fill that in. Okay. So the only thing you need to do here is track the status. If it's just a draft, hasn't been approved yet or whatnot, you can post it as a draft, and that will post to the pending change order. Okay, so you can print or email the change order document. I don't think I have a document form set up in here, but we'll take a look at it. But it's the same concept as you can create your own subcontract change order document, with a scope on it and signature lines. That can be emailed, printed out. So once you're ready for it to post and update the subcontract document, you can come into here and hit the post button. And that will add it to the revised contract amount, and it'll code it as a closed state. And so now if we go back to my subcontract document, you can see it in here. So let's go to edit. And now I have that subcontract change order created here. Where am I? Let me look. I went to the wrong spot here. You'll notice if I go back to let's go back to the project. Let's go to projects and let's pull up our project. Just to show you that we can do it on that commitment report as well. We go to purchasing commitments. Now you'll notice that subcontract document has original, revised, okay, and so forth. So there you go. That's how you can track a project change order in the system. And then basically, overall, we're trying to get to this aspect. You could run, some other reports. If I want to run for example, a job cost, what's called cost overview. If you want to see a commitment amount versus your budgeted amount by cost code, this is where you can do something like that. I click view here. It gives us the drop down. This report's set up to give you the job drop down inside the report, which is kind of cool. You can flip it around as you're going here. But if we flip over to the San Antonio project, you'll notice that, now this is just showing by cost code. Here's our original estimate, and here's what we've committed to spend for that line item. So if we go down to the plumbing line, it's going to look a little skewed because it's totaling. I've used a bunch of plumbing in my samples, but that $45,000 commitment is in this number right here. And this report doesn't drill down, but there are others that do. And then overall, one nice report to take a look at is in financial reports, the project overview report. So in here, let's see, let's just look at that one. Let's look at all of them. All projects as of 6/5. Let's take a look at that. So you'll notice here's our San Antonio project, and we're also going to be updating all of these buttons. So this is the revised commitment. So that number that we filled in today is in this number here. If I wanted to drill down on it, right from the job level, now I can see there is all my subcontract documents. There's the 2 we did today. And what makes up my balance? So there's all the subcontracts. And then what's really nice is we can get right back in from the financials right here to the entries and to the document. So if I want to keep going, there's my GL entry for it. Because what it's going to do is it's posting a budget entry in there for your committed cost. And if I click that, now there you go. I'm right back to my purchase order, and I can get in and view it and edit it all from that reporting area, which is really powerful. So hopefully that gives you some insight into how to manage your subcontracts directly within Sage Intacct's Construction Edition. Check us out, like I said, in the other videos for the change management system as well. And if you have any comments, please enter them below and feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you and have a great day.